Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Canary Room. Coming up on the show today, we meet the rest of the new arrivals in the Canary Room. We've got a clear bird, a couple of variegated birds, and some more darks. We've got some footage from the North of England show too, and we'll meet some Norwich. As always, sit back and enjoy the show. Behind me is a little clear yellow hen. This bird has come in from John Evans. It's had its back just above its tail pulled, so you don't get a full appreciation of its shape. But what you can see is it's a very tidy little typey hen bird. I'm really pleased to have got this bird and its sister, which is a buff that we'll see in a minute, into the room for next year's breeding programme. It's one of 21 hens that will run for next year, although that number by the time the winter's finished will probably be around 19. The reason I'm so pleased to have it is this bird is bred out of a variegated yellow cock that I let John have last year, and a clear buff hen that John himself had bred. Both of those birds were bred down from my winning line of variegateds. Now, over the last couple of years, the way that my stud has developed, and with some of the challenges that I've had, that line is poorly represented. And what I've done now is bring 3 hens that are bred down from that line back into the room. So next year I'm looking to breed some really strong clear birds and some really strong variegated birds again. Now it's late November as we're shooting this episode. You can hear the cockbirds in really good voice, which is encouraging, really encouraging. It's absolutely freezing in the Canary Room, as Dan the cameraman today will testify. Isn't that right, Dan? There's the famous thumb in front of the lens again. Behind me is a variegated buff hen. It's the sister to the clear that we've just seen, so it's from the same line of birds. I've got 4 light variegated birds for next year, and this is another one that I've bought in from John. Again, it's got a really nice style to it. It's not the showiest of birds, but the pedigree behind it and how I'm going to pair it next year, which was the clear yellow cock that went to North Wales, should really help to cement that line and bring the strength and a little bit of vigour back into it. So the third and final hen that we bought in from John, which is one of 9 new hens into the Canary Room for next year. Now that sounds like a tremendous amount of new birds to bring in, and it is to some degree. However, 7 of those hens are related in some way to birds that are already in the shed. There's only 2 birds, which we'll see in a moment, that are new additions. This bird, a variegated yellow hen, has got superb width across the shoulders. Again, really nice position on this bird and good carriage. It's the cousin to the birds that we've just seen. It's bred from a 5-year-old clear yellow cock that John took off me at the beginning of this season. And more importantly, it's down from that very successful variegated line of mine again. So I'll be pairing this bird and the clear yellow that we saw earlier with the anchor buffcock bird in the variegated line for next year. And hopefully, and he'll be a busy boy next year, we'll produce some real quality and some quantity. It's a nice bird, this. It's not the showiest of birds, and it's not really had a great deal of time in a show cage, so it's not showing itself particularly well. but there's plenty of width across the shoulders. It has got quite a nice wing carriage, and it's short. It's got a roundness. Although it's racing a little bit now, you can still see that it's got some shape to it, and that's really important in birds. If it races and it's got no shape, then it's no good really in the stud. This bird is not settled, but it's still showing some shape, which is what you're looking for. Let's take a closer look. The penultimate of the new additions on the Fifes is from the very, very successful partnership, Adam and Sharon Kendall. Now, we've met Adam and Sharon a couple of times on the show, and in a couple of weeks' time we'll be heading down to the Midlands to do a couple of episodes from their setup. We'll see in a moment the birds that did well at the north of England. One of those birds was Adam and Sharon's variegated buff hen. We saw in the previous episode win Best Champion at North Wales. At North of England it went one better and won Best Champion and Best in Show. Now, I've known Adam and Sharon for many years now. Saw them come through as successful novices and step up really strongly into the champion classification. They've had a number of Best in Shows before, but this season has been a real breakthrough season for them. So they won Best in Show at Cleveland. At my own show, the Northwest, they had 4th Best Champion. They were Best Champion at North Wales and Best Champion and Best in Show at the north of England. That, by anyone's stretch, is a phenomenal season. I wanted to bring in some vitality really to the dark line and to the birds in general. And I picked originally 3 birds up from Adam and Sharon. Now, unfortunately, I've lost one of the buff hens, and that happens at times. But this bird here behind me is a really nice, really short, self-green yellow hen. I'll pair it to one of the really nice buff cocks of mine that's been bred this year. And again, in a couple of weeks' time, we'll start to look at pairing preparation and the birds that we're going to put together for next year. But this is a really sweet green yellow hen. I'm really pleased to have got it. Very kind of Adam to let it go for me, and I think it will be really useful for me. It's a nice short bird. It's got really tidy carriage. It's got a good head on it. It's got really nice strong lacings, and it's got a really nice position to it, which is important for the birds, certainly important for the Fifes, and it will work well with the buff cock that I wanted to go with. And the final bird, or certainly the final Fife that we're going to see today, again from the A&S Kendall partnership, is an over-year, heavily variegated buff hen. One of the things that's very obvious about Adam and Sharon's birds is the volume of feather on them, the volume of feather on the body, and whilst I have some very nice stylish birds, they could probably do now with a little bit more feather adding to them. We saw it in the last episode with the heavily variegated buff hen that had brought in from Gerald. Again, it's a case in point with this bird here. It's an over-year bird. It bred some nice birds from Adam, but you know, he's helped me out, which I'm very grateful of. It's a short bird, and it's got lovely position on it, and that's, again, we've talked about it a couple of times now. It's really important with the Fifes. You don't want the bird to lean over the perches, and there is a tendency on some of the birds to lean. You want them as upright as possible because they've got a better opportunity of showing themselves. As I say, I've just pulled this bird from the flight cage where it's with some of the other dark hens, and it's settled quite quickly. That's a really good sign for me as well. So you want birds that are comfortable in show cages and that settle in show cages. I'm a great believer that steadiness is bred into a bird. Now, my birds have that steadiness relatively naturally. Obviously, when you're bringing in birds from an unrelated stud, and I've never had Fifes from Adam and Sharon before, you've got to be careful that you're bringing in the same kind of qualities that are in your own birds. It's here for a very specific reason. As I say, it'll probably get paired with the blue cock, and then next year, depending on the quality of the young, I'll probably just look to retain the hens And it will be the same with the green yellow hen that we've just seen. I'll probably look to retain the hens and let the cocks go, but it's 12 months off before we have to make that decision, so let's not worry about it too much now. So the North of England show has just been on over the weekend. It's one of the biggest shows anywhere in the world. The Midlands is slightly bigger now, but the North of England is a massive show. Very, very grateful to a close friend of the show, Adam Kendall, who shot some of the footage there. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the show. So what we've got coming up now is the champion colour winners, a little bit on each bird, and then we can see Adam's best in show, the variegated buff hen that we saw on last week's show, in all its glory again. So we start with the best clear. It's a clear buff hen, benched by Ian Watson. You can see it's moving across the perches. It's a very, very nice clear buff hen, a very nice bird. I understand in the clear buff cock category that there were almost 70 birds benched, which is a phenomenal number of birds. Clear buff cock is a classification that I don't enjoy judging, and if I'd have seen 70 and I'd have got that class, I think I'd have I think I may have left. No, clearly I'm obviously joking. So the next bird that we've got is a ticked yellow hen, cage number 6, class number 6, cage number 32, benched by Henry Cooper. It looks lovely, this bird here, lovely and jaunty. It's moving across the perches, and I've said it a couple of times on the show today, and we'll focus on it a little bit later. Position is really important on the birds, and what you've got with this bird is it's showing really nice position. It's up, it's showing itself really well. Before we see Adam and Sharon's variegated, we'll see a heavily variegated yellow hen from Colin Dudley. It looks like a nice bird. It's racing a little bit and it's very difficult to determine, but it looks like a nice bird. To take the heavily variegated special at the North of England, it's got to be something special. Next up is a self-green bird, class 18 from Carline and Morton. It's a lovely bird, this. It's got plenty of body on it, and look how it holds its shape. Again, they're always difficult to judge birds at this time of the day because they're covered in rosettes and not all of them like them, but a lovely little bird all the same. A new name to me, S. Collins, who won the Cinnamon Special with a self-yellow cockbird. A nice bird, only see a fleeting moment of it here, but looks like a really, really strong cinnamon bird. The final bird in the champion specials that we see is Gerald Spencer's variegated white cock. We know that we've got the mother of that bird in the shed. We know that we met it when we were down in Gerald's shed in the last episode. A lovely bird that will get better and better, I think, as the show season goes on. The final clip that we've got here is Adam and Sharon's best in show, the variegated buff hen. Again, the cage is covered in rosettes. It's very, very difficult to see, but it's a beautiful bird, stands stunning on this shot. We can now see M. Pilmer's best novice bird, again covered in rosettes and not a great shot of it. And then finally we'll go across and see all of the birds, all of the colour winners on the day, the novice colour winners. So some lovely, lovely birds that we've seen there from the North of England. Again, a show pretty much back to its best. Had an email into the show about what to look for in an exhibition Fife. So one of the episodes we've seen myself and Graham Holdsworth actually judging, and we've seen a couple of the shows now, the North West and North Wales, and we've just seen the birds from the North of England show and some of the qualities that they've got. But I was asked to go into a little bit more detail, and I'll try and do that now for you. What I've got behind me are two green yellow hens. The bird here is one that we met earlier on the show, which is an unflighted bird, which is being bought in from Adam and Sharon Kendall. The bird over my shoulder is a 2-year-old bird, which won its class at the North of England, and we bought him from Gerald Spencer last year. Now you can see immediately the differences between these two birds. Part of this is unfair because one is a flighted bird and one is an unflighted bird. You can see the flighted bird is slightly bigger. The Fife will get a little bit bigger each year, which is why generally we only show them as unflighted birds. What is really important is steadiness. Again, this little hen here has got lovely jaunty movement, but as it pulls, it's losing its shape a little. We saw it earlier and we know that it's a very, very nice bird. This bird is rock steady and is showing itself beautifully. Its claws need trimming, and they will be before the season starts, so it's struggling to grip. If we move this bird to one side for a moment and take a closer look at the yellow hen, we can see as a judge, you judge the bird as a whole, but what you're looking to start with is the head of the bird. This bird has got a good rise from the top of the beak to the top of the head. Some birds are too flat, so they go almost straight across or up in an almost sort of triangle. This bird has got quite a nice rise. There are better headed birds in the shed though. The next thing you're looking for, and really sets off the bird, is I call it the nip in the neck. So as you run down the back of the head, you want a nice full back to the head. What you don't want, and you'll see it in some birds, is a slope away. It should be a roundness. And the roundness and the nip in the neck finish the head for me. You can see that this bird has got that roundness and it's got that nip in the neck. The next thing you're looking for is that run down the back. In this instance, the bird has got a lovely, gentle, flowing, smooth rise onto its back. You look at its front and it's got a clean front. Across the shoulders, it's got nice width and it's got a lovely pipe tail. Now, its wings are just out at the moment, but we've seen it. It pulls them in tight. Ideally, you just want to see the tip of the wings over the top of the bird. And the reason that the Fife is in an all-wire cage, although it's a bird of profile here and a bird of type, it's so we can judge it from all angles. You're looking then importantly at the legs. If I was to be critical of this bird, it's not showing enough leg for me. The bird here that we've bought in from Adam and Sharon is showing a little bit more leg, and that's really what you want. You want the bird to be up on its legs. There's no such thing as the perfect bird. I hope that's given you a little bit of an insight in what I look for as a panel judge in a bird. It's a strong head, it's a strong nip in the neck, and then it's clean lines around the bird, running under the undercarriage, running over the back, nice neat wings, and a really short, well pulled together tail. Regular viewers to the show will know that I've got a real soft spot for Norwich. This year I've got a couple of Norwich editions. This is a lightly marked, it's just a couple of little grizzle marks on the back of his neck. Buff cock. He's actually a cinnamon carrier, which will be interesting, so I'll breed some cinnamon Norwich for next year. We know what the plan is with the Norwich and the British birds in the shed and the reds, and we've got a couple of reds still to come, and they'll come over in the next couple of weeks. But a really nice bird this. Again, he's in a Fife cage, but you can see fabulous feather quality on him. A really nice bird. I'm really happy to have him. Let's take a little closer look. I'm going to pair the cinnamon carrying Norwich buff cock to this variegated, 50% variegated largely, yellow hen, and she's still got some pin feathers in her head, but you know, a nice bird, and I think will pair well with the Norwich cock. I've got some reds in, as I said. They're coming in a couple of weeks' time. I'll use those as feeders for the Norwich. The breeder I got them from has said that these Norwich will feed themselves. My experience of Norwich is they're not fantastic feeders, so I probably won't take the chance. I did breed some Norwich this year, as you'll know, but unfortunately I lost them under an unflighted Fife hen. So we'll have a closer look at her and then we'll wrap up today's show. So that's it for another episode of the show. I hope you've enjoyed it. We've got another 5 to go and we complete series 1 of the Canary Room. Don't forget, you can follow us on Facebook. You can catch us on YouTube as well. If you've got any questions to the show, email them, info@thecanaryroom.tv. Until next time, take care.